Hey guys, welcome back to the show Across the Waves, presented by the Leo Club of Hindu College, Colombo. I'm your host Nivedithan. Today is the International Day of Disabled Persons. Once Professor Stephen Hawking said that concentrate on things your disability doesn't prevent you doing well, and don't regret the things it interferes with. Don't be disabled in spirit as well as physically. With that quote, let's get into our fifth episode, which is named as Confidence. Fighting for rights in the post-COVID-19 era. On December 3rd this year, during the annual celebration of people with disabilities, the 2021 theme is Fighting for Rights in the Post-COVID Era. This year, we are celebrating the challenges, barriers, and opportunities for people who live with disabilities in the context of a global pandemic. Since March 2020, every person on earth has been impacted by drastic political, social, and economic change as a result of domestic and international responses to COVID-19. This year, International Day of People with Disabilities should be used to recognize that people who live with disabilities are among the most affected populations amid the COVID-19 pandemic, where marginalization, discrimination, vulnerability, and exploitation are everyday factors for many people. The increased risk of poor outcomes have been magnified with the reduced access to routine healthcare and rehabilitation services, more pronounced social isolation, poorly tailored public health messaging, inadequately constructed mental health services, and a lack of emergency preparedness for people with special needs. We call on domestic and international public health officials, political representatives, advocates, supporters, and every citizen in every community to learn from the experiences of people living with disabilities during this pandemic and push for more meaningful investments into the socio-economic building blocks which will reduce the barriers faced by people with disabilities in every community on earth. The annual observance of the International Day of Disabled Person was proclaimed in 1992 by the United Nations General Assembly Resolution 47/3. The observance of the day aims to promote an understanding of disability issues and mobilize support for the dignity, rights, and well-being of persons with disabilities. It also seeks to increase awareness of gains to be derived from the integration of persons with disabilities in every aspect of political, social, economic, and cultural life. The main program of the observance of the International Day of Persons with Disabilities at the UN headquarters in New York will include the opening panel discussions and cultural events. Member states, civil society organizations, and the private sector are welcome to organize their own events to celebrate the International Day, to raise awareness and promote the rights and perspectives of persons with disabilities around the world. International Year of Disabled Persons 1981. In 1976, the United Nations General Assembly proclaimed 1981 as the International Year of Disabled Persons. It called for a plan of action at the national, regional, and international levels with an emphasis of equalization of opportunities, rehabilitation, and prevention of disabilities. The theme of the International Year of Disabled Person was full participation and equality, defined as the right of persons with disabilities to take part fully in the life and development of their societies, enjoy living conditions equal to those of other citizens, and have an equal share in improved conditions resulting from socio-economic development. ICT for people with disabilities. Information and Communication Technologies (ICT) offer new ways of meeting this commitment towards those members of our society who have disabilities. While they are having great advances in the development of specialized assistive technology such as microprocessors control, prosthetics, or digital hearing aids, more general purpose technologies such as ordinary computers, tablets, and smartphones offer significant opportunities for broader social and economical inclusion of persons with disabilities. Real-life examples include a person is blind that now pays their bills online, a wheelchair user who is able to use the internet to access training at a tertiary learning institution, A person who has lost the use of their limbs but carries out the day-to-day business of an organization by accessing a computer using voice recognition software. A blind person who reads printed paper documents by using camera, audio and text recognition capabilities of a smartphone. A person who is deaf who uses closed caption YouTube videos to learn new skills. All of these examples show that the ICT's widespread use today can make a significant difference in the lives of persons with disabilities. Speakers for International Day of Disabled Persons 2021. Martin Wright, 7x7 bombing survivor and Paralympian. David Blunkett, Vice President of the Royal National Institute of Blind People. Aid Adoption, bronze, medal-winning Paralympian. Hannah Cockcroft, Paralympic gold medalist at the 2020 Games and world record holder. Ellie Simmonds, two-time Paralympic gold medalist. Tanny Gray Thompson, Global Ambassador for Disability Sport. Lauren Rolls, Paralympic gold medalist at the 2020 Games and LGBTQ advocate. Disability Awareness Day, lessons from Stephen Hawking. December 3rd was the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. This Awareness Day was initiated in 1992 by the United Nations with the aim to promote the rights and well-being of persons with disabilities in all spheres of society and development, and to increase awareness of the situation of persons with disabilities in every aspect of political, social, economical and cultural life. Part of the right of persons with disabilities is to live a life as close as possible to normal. Such a life includes having the ability to perform a desired job. If reasonable accommodations can be made to allow this, when this concerns working in science, some fields can more easily accommodate persons with disabilities than others. Think of making an office environment wheelchair accessible versus realizing wheelchair access in a sterile laboratory environment. Yet, before one instantly look at the limitation of the effort that can be made, one should also consider the possibilities of enabling some people to work as scientists. To emphasize this, let us consider one of the best known living scientists of any field at this time, Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking was diagnosed with motor neuron disease, ALS, well known from the Ice Bucket Challenge, in 1963 at the age of 21. Shortly after starting his graduate program at Cambridge University, his initial prognosis was a life expectancy of only 2 years, as is common with ALS. However, despite his difficulty walking and his slurred speech, his supervisor encouraged him to continue his work. Indeed, he successfully submitted this thesis in 1966 and won a fellowship to continue working as a scientist. Over the following decades, the progressive nature of his disease required changing accommodations from his environment. By the late 1960s, he was bound to a wheelchair, and he and his family had to start a campaign for wheelchair accessible facilities at the university in the 1970s. Several graduate students have lived with Hawking and his family to assist with his care and in work. In the late 2000s, he lost the ability to drive his wheelchair independently. His speech gradually deteriorated to such an extent that he changed from using interpreters, a spelling card directed with eyebrow movements, a hand and later a cheek muscle guided computer to eventually a word predicting program based on his brain activity and facial expression. Due to an environment that enabled him to work, Hawking was able to make outstanding contributions to theoretical physics and cosmology. His research has led to an entirely different understanding of the universe. Apart from his contributions to academia, Hawking has also actively brought science to the broader public with his own popular science works and by motivating others to participate in science communication. Moreover, after initial reluctance, he became an advocate for the rights of persons with a disability and showing the potential of persons with disabilities. If you are disabled, it is probably not your fault, but it's no good blaming the world or expecting it to take pity on you. One has to have a positive attitude and must make the best of the situation that one finds oneself in. If one is physically disabled, one can't afford to be psychologically disabled as well. In my opinion, One should concentrate on activities in which one's physical disability will not present a serious handicap. I am afraid that Olympic Games for the disabled don't appeal to me, but it is easy for me to say that because I never liked athletics anyway. On the other hand, science is a very good area for disabled people because it goes on mainly in the mind. Of course, most kinds of experimental work are probably ruled out for most such people, but theoretical work is almost idle. My disabilities haven't been a significant handicap in my field, which is theoretical physics. Indeed, they have helped me away by shielding me from lecturing and administrative work that I would otherwise have been involved in. I have managed, however, only because of the large amount of help I have received from my wife, children, colleagues, and students. I find that people in general are very ready to help, but you should encourage them to feel that their efforts to aid you are worthwhile by doing as well as you possibly can, which is said by Stephen Hawking. 5 ways you can support the differently able. This day aims at encouraging a better understanding about people affected by some disability, learning about their true abilities and being aware of their rights, dignity and welfare. International Day of Disabled is not confined just to physical condition, but it also encompasses mental disabilities like autism, Down syndrome to neurological problems like multiple sclerosis. Unfortunately, Sri Lanka is far behind in providing various comfortable facilities for the disabled. Our government buildings, hospitals, public places still lack ramps. There are no specially designed restrooms for those with physical disabilities. Our public transport doesn't offer any extra support system for them during travel. A poor treatment and a negative comment can affect their self-esteem, confidence, performance at workplace and push them into further depression. If you have a loved one, a colleague or come across even a stranger with disabilities, get the following on what you could do to make their life better. Ask before offering help. Don't assume that people with disabilities would always require some assistance in leading their lives, and the first step is to treat them as equal. Speak clearly and listen. If you have a loved one or colleague with mental or development disabilities, always use simple words. Don't use complex terms. Explain your views in simple sentences and allow them to make their own decisions. Make them feel confident. Few disabled people may suffer from lack of self-esteem and confidence. Remember, many of them don't like sympathy and don't stare at them. Always make eye contact while talking and don't try to strike up a conversation around their disabilities. Respect personal space. People with disabilities need their own space and may not like others touching their mobility aids without permissions, as you may not know how to handle their equipment. If you want to move their wheelchair, ask for permission. Always knock on the doors before you enter the room like you do with others. Do not discuss their disability with others. Make changes. If you are expecting a visitor with certain disability at home or in office, try making few simple changes that would make them feel comfortable. Place necessary items within their reach in restrooms, bedrooms. Offer to help with items in shelves or cupboards. Also try and respect their daily routine, and if there is a sudden change in the daily activities, help them to cope up with the transition. The COVID-19 pandemic and the subsequent stringent lockdowns with rigorous social distancing norms and having to wear face masks at all times in public places have no doubt affected the ease of living for persons with disabilities as well all over the world. Nevertheless, in these difficult times, when we are all going through various challenges on the personal, professional and health fronts, some simple steps to help to ensure that disabled people can obtain what they need on a daily basis and assure one and all of an inclusive, cooperative and kind society. Engage in positive conversations while maintaining social distancing is the need of the hour to halt the further spread of coronavirus infection. Keep in mind to not completely isolate the disabled in your community. Meet with visually challenged or physically handicapped people and talk them to constructive topics like work, family, music, or discuss happy memories from the past. This helps persons with disabilities have a sense of belonging and uplift their overall mood and mental health in these tough times. Offer health medical support. While it's quite simple for us to stock up on all our nutrition supplements and immunity boosters, Go for health checkups. Consult a doctor online. Besides buying any medications for other pre-existing conditions, it's not so easy for disabled people to acquire their healthcare needs amidst current partial lockdowns. Identify these people in your neighborhood. Sit down with them and help them order all their medicines online. Set up doctor's appointments virtually or take them to a nearby clinic for their routine medical checkups. Ensure they receive day-to-day needs. In these times, to widespread infectious diseases, it is very important to eat healthily and take meals on time. During the day, check up on your neighbors with disabilities to make sure they have ample groceries, foodstuffs stocked up in their homes to avoid going out frequently. In case they find it difficult to do so, go ahead and help them purchase their essential supplies online. Ensure it gets delivered to their homes and their caretakers. House help is present every day to cook meals and provide them with nourishing food. At last, happy International Day of Disabled Persons. But remember one thing, when everyone else says you can't, determination says yes you can. So be confident and believe in you. Thank you for listening to the podcast. See you in the next episode. Until then, here is your host Nivedithan signing off. Cheers.